do we, as a group or individually, have any unanswered questions that loom in the moment? All right, so for the record, there aren't any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off.
All right, so who's ready to sparkle tonight?
But we are here, and I'm so glad that we are, in fact, here. For the record, all of my many thanks, despite my tardiness, as always. Your skills, your talents, and what you've brought to the table is most appreciated by me, and I look forward to seeing what you all do with these particular band of characters, with this particular motley, this dive into fairy tale of our own creation. And without too much further ado, I'd like to say that this is officially Soup City Sins Obscura, Book 1, Episode 2. This story, you think, you know. When we last left our motley, they'd managed to fling her further into the wild around them. They'd managed to bring down the tree of woe that was in fact one of her many toys left lying around. The screams of pain and agony spreading throughout the hedge, alerting all those with ears and eyes that something was not quite right. As the landmark of the center of this little small trod, safely in its own realm, bartered for by the souls and existences of other changelings. Their pain, their torment, never ending, them having been shaped and formed to purposes and cast off, allowed to be kept as souvenirs and trinkets, living immortal memories of their own pain and suffering, living dolls to be played with, toyed with by her. And much like a child left to their own devices and their own boredom, they'd been remade, hanging from the tree in various states. The tree itself, an example of just that, how the hedge and those things in it might be changed. It's only as the crack sounds like thunder and the tree topples, and the knowledge of what it was and what those are hanging from it, as well as what lays close enough to hear all of the hubbub, the hullabaloo, draws closer. That the motley realizes what this actually is, this place, this space. It is a playground of forgotten things, a cast-off bit of wild, left to be as it was, traded for by the existence of others like themselves. And in the realizing of that, the hedge just outside of this small, safe, unsafe space begins to change. The tumult, the chaos, the battle, leaving its mark not only on the changelings and her things as they slowly drip and meld back to what they once were, but on the hedge itself. It's already rough-hewn, prickly existence growing wilder, the barbs a little longer, a little more curled, multifaceted, clinging and digging deeper, reaching and yearning for the changeling's blood, their energy, and most importantly, their time, attempting to hold them here, to keep them for what is closing in, the sound of hounds, the snuffling, the scuffling, the baying out there in the distance, and something drawing closer. The question, as ever, is what is it that the motley are doing?
Kira, for her part, is going to be trying to find the exit.
I think Aurora is going to agree with that and kind of look to the others. I think it's kind of time to go.
Rightio. I guess I'm leading the way.
Tech is looking for something to break.
Okay. Now, which contract does Hazel have to help her navigate?
She doesn't have a contract. She has the hedge sense merit, which is two die bonus to all rolls to navigate the hedge. Find icons, food, shelter, or goblin fruit.
Ooh, goblin fruit. Tasty. We won't starve.
It's
will
delicious.
not starve. You will, however, do me a favor. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits and to just give me a long quick second, because there is an actual Yes. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits survival +2 contestedly, and you get a bonus for Aurora and Kiara, so that's a total bonus of +4. Kike, would you be so kind as to roll your composure plus word for me, please?
You said this is contested?
It is.
Sounds about right.
Okay. Excuse me. What, pray tell, does fate have in store for you all in this particular case? With the another plus 3, that gives it a total of 8. You all are in for it today. You all have the luck of the gods on your side. And the problem with that, the luck with the gods being on your side, we all know how well that worked out for Medusa. We all know how well that worked out for every Grecian hero, every child of a god who dared, every child of even a demigod who dared test that luck and see how well the fates would protect them. And as one turn leads to the next, and Kiara and Aurora and Hazel are thinking of home, And Tyke is trailing behind them, looking for her, looking for anything to break and sunder and tear and gnash the hedge itself, echoing the breaking and tearing and the gnashing of home. Offers a path leading to the left and then to the right. The space between the thorns growing smaller and smaller as they grow frailer and frailer. Instead of it being the fresh green thorns of summer, instead of it being the fresh green growth and newness of summer, the scent of roses in the air, it becomes a dry, spindly thing. The branches around you growing darker and older, the snap growing louder and crisper as they dry and age as you all move through each of your steps, careful to avoid being impaled on the nearest, longest, most gnarled branch, the most angry of things. And the space grows smaller and smaller. Tyke's wide shoulders, 2, occasionally seeming 3 people's wide shoulder to shoulder, begins catching small scrapes that grow into larger cuts, as if the branches themselves are feeding on the anger therein, as if the branches themselves are feeding on the need to do just that. And instead of the sound of hounds off in the distance, they seem to be echoing from just round the next corner. They seem to be echoing just from behind. They seem to be echoing just there in the darkness between the space where the branches will reach out and attempt to pull you into them. And though Hazel knows the way, or has an idea of which way is the way, it is only as they make another left after another right, and that the ground seems to be growing more precipitous, the angle of incline growing further and further against them, as if they're slowly moving down a near sheer surface, only able to hold on by occasionally reaching out to those very thorn branches that are attempting to pull you further into the lost, further into the dead, drying winter of the space. Did you realize that the hedge itself is acting to lead you circularly back towards the huntsman, back towards something to stand against, back towards something to destroy or be destroyed? Those of you with a wits of 2 or more realize that you've passed that particular boulder once, twice, maybe 3 times. Those of you with a wits 2 or more realize that you descended farther than you ascended on the way here. Those of you with a wits of 2 plus or more and a survival of 1 realize that while the sun and the moon obeys whatever keeper happens to be in the area, that has risen and fallen a couple of times now. A journey that took you a few moments, bordering on half an hour, maybe an hour, has seemingly taken you days. And the ebb and flow of the glamour wrapped around you, keeping you hale and hearty, seems to be being buffeted by the hedge around you, seems to be being leached and lapped away by the branches, the thorns, the bramble under your feet, cracking and alerting the world around you to where you are, all but calling out, "Here they are!" So forward and onward, back and away. What is it that you are attempting to do in this moment, realizing that this seems improbable, because everything is in fact possible.
Hazel will just pause for a moment and just mutter something under her breath and just attempt to refocus.
I feel like most of us are trying to get out of here. So why is this happening? And she motions to what's going on around them. Looking towards Kira, you want to leave, right?
Hell yeah, I want to leave. I'm not
Hazel,
going
you
to
trying to
drive
get out of
back.
here?
Ideally,
The Aurora kind of looks at Tyke. Okay, so you must be the reason we're stuck. Don't you want to go home?
He just growls.
I promise I'll get you a pint of beer if we get home. Do you want to be caught? They're coming for us. We can't stay here.
Smash him.
I don't think that you'll... As awesome as a fighter as you are, the whole entirety of the Huntsmen against you, I don't think it's gonna work out, hon. What would make you want to go home right now? How can we help you?
He's pretty much just seething.
She is going to try to calm him again. Doing her best.
As you all pause and slow your travel, because it's one of those situations where, unlike gravity, the hedge is in fact mutable. Unlike gravity, is not a consistent. Unlike gravity, it is not a natural occurring force based on the weight of the planet and its density. It is a yieldable, moldable thing, changing and moving, becoming what is most wished for, spun by your dreams and your goals. Sadly, and as you've all learned throughout the many years of your service, your individual goals are not all that shape and mold the hedge. It is a place unto itself with its own rules that shift and respond, but you can push it. You can, the more forces you have, the more energies you have, much like that portion of Peter Pan where you have to clap to, if you believe. The hedge also responds in kind, and as the wish for peace and the wish for pain meld and bounce off one another, affecting the hedge, you hear her voice once more. I have your lost things. I have your lost things. I have your lost things. And it's a subtle thing that's been going on the entire time that you've been here. It's only now as you stand still and listen around you, what Tyke threw away, her in all of her glory, has been following you. Her voice, her calling out. While the branches themselves have only been making the noise of being stepped on, or when there's a touch too deep and you hiss in regards to losing a small portion of yourself. Her voice has been there the entire time. Low and quiet. I have your lost things. But now as you stand still, there's an answer. A hound's call, a bay. You realize that the baying that you've heard, that has not simply been the baying of dogs alerting each other that this way is prey. It's been the bay in response to her. It's, I have your lost things. And as you stand quietly, slowly moving forward, you hear the breaking of brambles, you hear the snapping of branches, you hear footsteps growing closer. And there's a rough, choked cough of a sound. Out of the way, boys! On it! It's the first time that you've heard the voice, that particular voice, together. It's the first time that you've understood that, yes, it is not simply paranoia. And even if it was, even if it is just the fear of once more being pulled into service for an incalculable number of years, that there is in fact someone out to get you. There is in fact something closing in. Everyone knows or fears that there are huntsmen out there. You all heard stories and tales of tales. You've seen a few individuals during your day job, or more specifically during Tyke's job, that definitely seemed the sort. But this is the first time where that old wives' tales, those old myths that's spoken about in hushed tones. Well, you know, I had a friend of a friend. He outran. It would look like a greyhound, or yeah, he had a huge lion's head. And the stories get wilder and wilder. This is the first time when you've heard that cough of a thing, that cough of a hunter on your trail. That rough, "Come on, boys, let's go!"
Well, seems that we should keep moving. Quickly now.
How would eidetic memory work with getting lost in the hedge or unlost in the hedge?
You may mechanically add an additional die to help. Hey, we passed this place already. We've been here before. And the problem,
what if there's two people with eidetic memory?
And that would in fact aid your navigation. The problem being, and here's the very real thing, as you all begin moving forward with a bit of a more hastened pace. Not that you were slow before. You all are naturally faster than you were in the mortal world. Ground and distance, here to there, are concepts that bend and yield to your will. The hedge moves and adapts and changes, and it yields to enough force applied to it, but not without some effort, not without some energy spent to purposefully manipulate the world around you. As you all are now currently doing so accidentally, because as you all grow hastened and begin looking for an additional out, or trying to recall and remember where you were, the hedge slowly molds into those spaces as those flickering images of those moments that you've already inhabited here. And therein lies the real risk. Because while you have been in these spaces before, many of those times were at the behest of your keeper. And Kira begins to hear between the "I've got your lost things." Yes, good. Make a note of that. Take that down. And that wizened voice demanding you notate, that you journal, that you take diction, causes a small mental sweat. The brain itself typically can't sweat. There's no exertion, there are no nerves. The brain itself never tells you when it's actually harmed, unlike the rest of the body. The skull itself has nerve endings, muscles have nerve endings, and you know where that pain is, but the realization of that pain is a thing not of the mind itself, not of the brain itself. That thing, that idea, that concept of pain is how the brain realizes the signals being sent from everywhere else, not its own pain. But in this particular moment, hearing that voice, hearing between those whispered utterances, take that down. The fingers begin to quiver, the muscle memory forming the shape of a pen, and parchment seems to be between the index and the thumb as the need and urge to sketch out the map around them, to commemorate this moment by keeping a note of it in the large book where the pages seem to be sewn in the moment that they are in fact complete. It's a hard one. And while Kira is the most recently survived, Tyke is equally moved. Instead of the endless sea that Aurora begins to feel around her, the lapping of waves, the sound of seabirds, instead of the "oh, we're almost perfect, aren't we? Let's put our face on," that Hazel begins to feel as things, costumers and makeup artists begin making her face. She feels a light touch of brushes and fingers molding things about her. Tyke remembers dark corners and beds taller than he is, with spaces underneath for all of the monsters of a huge child's imagination, fighting an endless battle, keeping those things from beneath the bed from crawling out and devouring the others around him. He remembers what it's like to be held in support and celebration of his victories, which cost him dearly. Cuts deep enough where he could see through to the marrow of his own bone, knit and re-put back together time and time again, where the shadows themselves were in fact the monsters, and they were filled with so many cutting teeth. Eyes large enough to see not only into the soul, but into the very idea of what that might mean. And each time, each victory, knowing that this is just the start and that it will occur once more. The very next night, which could be 15 minutes away, 5 minutes away, or an entire 2 weeks in the offing, but sooner or later, he would have to stand against the dark once more.
So I think just out of habit at this point, Hazel would reach down and Kira's hand, just a little squeeze. We're still here, reassuring the both of them.
Kira will grab Hazel's hand tightly. She needs some support in this moment.
Aurora trying to snap herself out of the situation, touches the beads at her wrist and makes them clatter, because they would make a different sound underwater than they would on land.
And as that's happening, Kira then suddenly speaks up. The hedge isn't entirely real, right? It can be manipulated like a dream. So maybe instead of trying to run around and getting more and more lost, we can try and force it to make a portal back home for us, or at least bring us to one. Is that something we can do?
Hazel will ponder on it for a moment. I don't see why not.
I mean, hell, it's worth a shot.
All right. Let's give it a try.
How long was your servants? How long was your durance, Hazel?
She was abducted sometime in the 40s, and she's been back, long enough to, get enough to have a small apartment to herself. So probably around 60 years.
"60 years as a skittering, skulking thing. What was needed, what was wished for. The better to continue the game of chase, the game of hide and seek, to find out secrets others would best wish unknown. It was a long time being of service to something that had no real understanding of what was too much, what was too little. There's no scope nor scale to that idea. You were always that which was needed. And right now, what you need and what you want seem to be playing havoc with your senses. What you need and what you want versus what you are, what you were. Always that which was most useful. Always that which was most unseen and expected. That's one of the many talents of service workers in the real world. Being present yet invisible. Being exactly as expected and wished for by the guest. It's not an easy thing to shake off. It's not an easy thing to learn, but it's even harder to break free of that. Being constantly present and yet invisibly so. Kira, Aurora, and Tyke have their needs and their wants, and part of Hazel's being is in solving those needs and wants, being invisibly of service. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus word versus your own willpower?
Current or actual?
Current.
Okay.
We're trapped forever. This is it.
Sweet.
One step in front of the next. That's the only way to get out of hell. One step in front of the next. That's the only way to march into adventure. One step in front of the next is the only way to move forward away from one's past. And as Hazel forces herself to move forward, take in their surroundings, and understand the way that the path should go, it's only as they round the corner and find themselves face to face with a individual, which is only a foot shorter than Tyke, meaning that he towers over nearly everyone else, save for Tyke. His face is a strange, sewn together bit of nothingness combined with the loyalty of a dog's eyes, the ferociousness of a tiger's maw, and the near impenetrable armor of a rhinoceros's hide. Around him are several score of baying hounds, small and wiry, large and thick, muscular as mastiffs, and yet next to him they might as well be pocket pooches. Next to you all they might as well be lions and tigers. And then that cough, that whispered raspy cough. Well, looks like we found ya.
Ira at this point is wide-eyed with horror and is gripping Hazel's hand painfully tight.
She will smile and squeeze Kira's hand gently and turn her gaze to the big man. It's like, are you the lost thing? I heard someone saying that the lost things were near. Are you that thing?
Everything is lost to someone, but you all need to be returned where you started. Now come along peacefully and I'll get you back home where you belong.
I haven't been home in a while. Maybe that would be fun. But I really think that we should get going. Because if you're lost, you should get back to your princess. I think that your puppies are a little tired too. They look like they're ready to go to sleep.
The growl that escapes almost in unison is one of curiosity, not one of true wishing of violence. But therein lies the play on things. Where is your home? In comparison, what someone else may believe where you belong may not be where you feel you should. Home is a very personalized thing. Home is a very real concept in the mind, yet at the end of the day, when you think of home, what do you see? Do you see the room filled with shelves that seem to go on forever with all of the untold tales dreamed of by children? Do you see yourself in a playroom taken from the box with the other toys and held as shield and sword against the monsters of the dark? Do you consider yourself one of the countless million drops of water dancing in an endless sea, lighting the way further into the murky abyss? Or do you see yourself as something to be molded and shifted to account for all of the unaccountable things, to learn all of the secrets unspoken of, and hold the wisdom of every moment? Those ideas, those concepts, why you were, isn't exactly how you were. It's just because the books were there to be read didn't mean you had the opportunity to. It's too much knowledge to absorb in one sitting or a million sittings. Just because you were the protector, the sword and shield, didn't mean that you actually needed to be the protector, the sword, the shield, and everything that stands in the way. You didn't need to fight back the dark. Perhaps you needed to find a way to light the dark, to break its murky hold. And just because you lit the way further into the murky abyss, was that the actual path, or just the idea of it? And while your purposes and reasons for being were varied and many, it is clear what this being is, what their purpose is, the returning of lost things. While some things can't be hidden, love, truth. Some things should never be found. And right now, torn between those two ideals, somewhere in the vast middle of those two ends. Those that can't be hidden and those that can't be found. Here you are in the hedge, face to face with the huntsman and his hounds of the hunt. Decisions. Or as she recently said, talk tick, talk tick.
He's going to try to feel how much water is in this area. Is the grass wet? Like, how much she can pull to her and create a barrier between the hunter and them to give them another way to get away. So that's what she's going to try to do.
So you're trying to summon a bit of your element to the present?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have a contract that allows you to do so?
Yep, changeling hours. I can affect any object in time, especially water.
All right, sounds like a plan. And excuse me, I don't have the notes for that right in front of me. Give me a quick second and I'll bring that up.
It's an instant action and it lasts for 1 chapter.
Per 5 inside. Look at that. So would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your is a manipulation, whichever is higher, either your composure or stamina plus word. And while that's happening, you all feel the very essence of Arcadia around you. After all, it's not that hard to consider where you are, but you feel it being centered in and around Aurora. The world itself seems to be drawing in, and time seems to be slightly being dilated. And while that is happening and the huntsman is closing a step closer, what is everyone doing?
Hazel will, still holding on to Kira's hand, take a small step forward. You can really take us home? Because home is where the heart is, right?
Your heart's in your chest for now.
Oh, not that kind of heart. The figurative heart. The one that tells you love people.
Come along, enough of this foolishness. And as everyone's all but stunned, stepping forward places you closer to the huntsman. Places you closer into the grasp of the hounds, who are not working to flank. That's not exactly what hounds do. They close off the paths of escape, leaving a singular path open that, well, they can tree you. They can lock you into a burrow. They can prevent you from escape. Their gnashing teeth and growls being what it is. A dominance display to cause the prey drive in those that they hunt to raise to the levels where they simply take flight, mad, unaware as to where they're being cornered, to where they're being treed. Because in the moment where you all are, while not a clearing, leaves plenty of opportunities for escape, or at least it did, until the first hound pops like a water balloon, and then the second hound follows suit. Their brethren, their ilk, their pack backing some, taking a half a step back, and as Kira and Hazel are splattered with the watery remains of the hounds nearest them, as a wall of their viscera begins raising from one hound after the next, 4 of them in the blink of an eye. The houndsman frowns, the huntsman frowns, the hounds treating aggression with aggression, unsure as to what this might be. Magic is never new to them, but this level of surprise, in fact, is splattered with their viscera, realizing that you were and are close enough to be snapped, to be pulled into their gaping maw. What lays ahead for you? What are you doing in this moment as splash? One hound goes up, splash, a nice hound goes up, the teeth and claws of the hounds are far closer than you had assumed. By stepping forward, you stepped into the full spray of what it was that Aurora was about. Close enough that you are, in fact, the tip of the spear for your motley. You all are the focus point for what happens next. What is it that you all do?
Are we counting Aurora in that, or is Aurora's focus on this whole issue?
Yes.
Well, as soon as they start exploding and her action seems to have worked, she is going to cut and run in a different direction,
Right.
away from the dogs. Thinking really, really hard. Way out, way out, way out.
And Kira at this point is practically pulling on Hazel's arm to follow.
Probably, yes. She will do so and assuming that she still has her little bag of tricks from the mortal realm on her. Yes or no? Or would that just kind of like meld?
No, she still has it on her.
Peach Can Jelly Bean? She's going to withdraw a couple of like just little party masks and hand one, or rather shove one into Kira's hand and just kind of drag them both into the shadows.
And Tyke?
Tyke will roar and blocks the path as the rest of them run away.
So, Aurora, the moment that the water of their life, the water of their being, begins, exploding and otherwise being ripped from the first few of the hounds, forming a small barrier between them and the hunting party, turns heels and takes off. And Hazel and Kira take off in another direction. And Tyke, true to his endurance, true to being that which held back the dark, roars, stepping forward to bar the path of those fleeing.
He's not trying to stop them from fleeing. He's trying to stop the pursuers going after them fleeing.
So holding the bridge, or as the common modern understanding of the thing is, holding the door, keeping the path barred from those that chase. Tyke prepares to face down the huntsman. Now pulling and attempting to obfuscate, to skulk in the darkness. Is there a particular path that Hazel is pulling Kira towards? Are they fleeing and flying in the shadow of Aurora, or are they simply going a different way?
They would probably be going with Aurora.
And Aurora, thinking of a safe place, a way away. Does she fight her natural inclination to be drawn towards water? Does she fight her natural inclination to always find her calm, her stillness at water? Or is that what she thinks of when thinking of safety?
That is a good question. If we do this wrong, she could end up in the middle of Lake Superior. She knows water is safety for her, but she's thinking about safety for everybody, and water is not safety for everybody. So she's thinking of the bar, because the bar was meant to be safe. That is what she's focusing on. The place that they came into this on is where she's focused. She's thinking of pizza, she's thinking of unlimited drinks, she's thinking of safety there.
And Tyke is thinking of solely protecting their pack and blocking the huntsman and the hunting pack, correct?
Yep.
Alright, sounds like a plan. So, everyone's heard of, well, not everyone, but most of the Western world have heard of the Battle of Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. Most people have heard of the Battle of Several Bridges, where brave berserkers have held the path. Most remember the tales and fairy tales about the Alamo. Most know what it required for the Western world to, well, stand unified against the forces of the Axis powers during World War II and other skirmishes. There is a nobility in sacrifice. There is a power in going down with the ship. Would you be so kind as to roll your composure plus word for me, please? And while Tyke makes that roll, Aurora, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus word? And Hazel and Kira, as you all are attempting to keep Aurora's glowing, fleeing form in front of you and keep it within sight for you all to get where you're going, would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus survival?
Do I get to add a plus for direction sense?
Yes.
What about trained observer? Would that impact this roll?
No, actually no. You're running headlong behind her, using the shadows to try to hide yourselves at the same time.
Fair enough.
Uno.
Absolutely not.
Did you just try using willpower?
Me? No.
Oh. Never mind.
We're going off on our own little adventure.
Let's see what fate decides. We shall give it up to all those lovely, wonderful things. Going on a trip in my favorite rocket ship, going through the skies, little Einstein. Going to explore, going through the skies, little Einstein. That's trademarked. You all didn't hear that.
I would like a Wonder Pets theme song, thank you.
It is amazing. Okay. It's amazing what one can do in a pinch, what fate steals from us in a pinch, what it seeks to accomplish, and how it changes its mind at the last second, how it shifts from one thing to the next. Following behind the glowing beacon that is, in fact, Aurora heading headlong towards safety. The hedge shifting around you. You can see colonnades appearing. You see a small stone path that she's on, but then it forks and she goes to the left, and then she heads over the round crest of the next hill. As you all get to the top of that hill, you realize that it is not in fact a hill. It is in fact a waterfall leaning down and down into a glowing hole filled with water as clear and clean as you have ever seen. You see that the stone path that you were on were not in fact paved stones, but just rocky crags poking up through the ground. How you all got here is anyone's guess, because you followed the glowing, dancing fairy light that was Aurora's back as she fled into the hedge. The sound of hounds attempting to tree something that Woot refuses to tree still echoing in the distance. Tyke, in deciding that now is the moment to utilize everything that he had been subjected to in all of his time across the hedge, as you all fled, the wall of brambles, the thorns closed, barring your path, and the hounds threw themselves at it, through it, as he roared and they attacked. For your successes, we will deal with the actual combat, but the hedge did respond to your intentions of barring their path. The hounds, however, were, unfortunately, indefatigable. Speaking of indefatigable, thinking of pizza and fresh warmth, beer flowing unending, and a safe space for you and your kin, your motley. As you round the crest of the next hill, making that right turn into that small crevice between the opening light that you see a small glow of neon, you realize that you are standing alone on the path leading to a honest to goodness country inn. It's a bright, warm, sunshiny day. You can hear the sound of water lapping the coastline. There on the porch is an old man with a hat pulled very low over his eyes and his feet kicked up, smoking as if he's been here waiting forever. You see a few people leaning against the building. 2 or 3 of them are vaping. One of them is actually playing a game of cornhole, and you can hear music and the sound of people enjoying themselves echoing from inside the building. And with those moments laying before us, with Tyke yet to sink tooth and claw to make sure that pound for pound, ounce for ounce, that he will assure that his motley escapes, with Aurora finding a safe space that offers never-ending beer and pizza and warm things from its hearth, with Hazel and Kiera standing looking out at the bright, shining, endless sea, having followed the Aurora here. It is 48 after the hour. Let's make it back at exactly turning of the hour. So see you all in 10, 11 minutes. All right, folks, how we doing?
Yep.
All right, that being the case, I'm taking it that most of us are working our way back in. It's like we're gonna do a little mechanical upkeep here. With there being easily more dogs than you have fingers, with the huntsman being there, clearly prepared and leaping at the chance of giving chase. What would have been, what is, in fact, Tyke's first action? Feeling and knowing that the hedge itself is responding to his wish to bar the path behind his motley. What is his first pass? Nearly surrounded though he is by the dogs, with the huntsman striding forward with all due purpose. What, if anything, is Tyke's first actual physical action?
Either to jump into a group of them and smash them as he lands, or to grab the closest one and yeet it into others.
Okay. So he is attempting to harm, ruin, otherwise stop as many of them as possible. So let's go ahead and give him a there's too many to count, so we're just going to say a -2 and strength plus brawl, as well as if he has any contract that he is utilizing to assist him. Excuse me.
He could use his seven league leap to jump into them and smash them when he lands.
Okay. So that means the total is, we'll give him a +1 for that, because it's not that very far. And he is a very large individual. So go ahead and give a +1, which means a total of -1 to his die pool. So it's going to be his strength, his brawl, and replace, because he hasn't spent any glamour yet, right?
I think he spent one doing this exact same thing when we were still in the bar. So,
all right. So he has 1 glamour die. Go ahead and replace one of the die in the pool with that 1 glamour and give it a shot. Would you like to use any willpower with that?
sure.
Leaping into the mass of dogs, leaping into the pack of hounds. While there is very little rhyme and very little reason to the width and breadth of what Arcadia is, there's a reason or a justification for nearly everything. Everything is bent towards a purpose, and everything has an aim or story that it's telling into the very ethos of everything that is Arcadia. Tykes reason. Has always been, whether he knew it or not, the protection of his. And what was his up until recently wasn't all that very much. Even now, when one puts their finger on it and actually tries to account for what is his, in point of fact, it's not all that much. It is himself, the idea of his motley, the idea of his job, and those people that take comfort in the dancers where he works. What is his is, unfortunately, the pain of the constant fear of loss, of losing it. And like all things in Arcadia, it has weight, it has value. It is a concept given room and width to breathe. And in this moment, as he leaps forward, his red, scarred visage screaming, yelling, roaring, the hounds respond. One goes down, the other goes down, another being trampled underfoot as he flings and hurls and creates a space around him. And into that void, into that mix, into that space that he's creating to keep the hounds at bay, strides the huntsman. And yet again, once more, Tyke is pained for his efforts. Once more, the truth of those who hold the door, those who raise the pillars, those who bodily put themselves in harm's way for the things that are theirs, the things that matter to them. The reward, as always, is pain. Would you be so kind as to take one unhalved superficial as your chest is crushed beneath the stone-like boots of the huntsman as he kicks you back into the gaping maw of his hounds, attempting to knock you off your feet, attempting to drive you into the ground, to use you as the first of many things that will be caught tonight. Tyke has been hit by harder things. He's been slashed, he's been cut open, he's had things broken. He, however, has not had the benefit of being kicked as if he was a soccer ball across a field of baying hounds. Until now. And while Tyke is not end over kettle, Kira, the mass forced into her hand by Hazel as they run. Do they try to one arm put it on, or are they stuck in a moment? Because it is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most exhilarating moments they've experienced since being free of this place. Their blood is sinking with the excitement, the nerves, the anxiety, the fear, but there's also something else behind it. There is a thread of being caught in a good old-fashioned adventure novel, as if they have the ability in this moment to write what happens next, to catalog everything that's happening, because this would be a great read. You all are behind enemy lines. You are being pursued and chased through a never-ending forest of brambles and branches and thorns, and then before you is a waterfall leading into the clearest, cleanest, bluest, brightest water you have ever seen. And the aurora, much like the aurora borealis and various other auroras that you've managed to jot down in your pursuit of knowledge, dances there just above the water, reflecting endless light back to you, reflecting the sense that here, at least momentarily, in this pristine, clear, clean moment, while you're not safe, you are at least at peace.
Did we make it out?
Hazel. Confronted with the bright, endless sea in front of them, the aurora dancing above the waves, you can almost hear the siren song. And not the end of things, but a siren song there beneath the tinkling splash of the water as it laps the shore. There beneath the roar of water pouring into water endlessly, there's a small lilt on the wind. And you realize that the aurora you were following is not in fact Aurora, the member of your motley. Somewhere along the way, the hedge twisted. The world slipped sideways. And here you are with Kira asking, did you make it out?
She will very slightly shake her head. She'll pause and look around, trying to determine where they got split up at.
There are 100 different ways that things could go sideways. There are a million more as to the reasons behind the why. Arcadia shifts and responds. It dances and evades. It never actually answers any questions. It merely responds. It merely gives an idea. It merely is an idea. And the way is clear, as it is also as muddied and muddled as all of the thoughts and dreams and wishes of children around the world, of adults around the world and beyond. Here in Arcadia, even dreams can have dreams. Even the ideas themselves can have dreams and fantasies as to what they would be or what they might be or how they might come into existence or how might they cease existing. It is, in fact, a space of endless possibilities, each with their own idea as to what those possibilities are. And standing here at the cusp of the endless sea, the very idea of water and what that means. You try not to think too deeply on that, because as confusion sets in and you try to find your way, the clear, clean blue water that goes on forever begins to roil a little bit. The siren singing shifts and slips into more of a dirge. The aurora in the distance, brightly shimmering, dulls a second or two as it shifts through various colors: pink, yellow, brown. Other colors that don't normally occur in rainbows or aurora borealises begins to dance through that shimmering, shifting light. And speaking of colors, here at this end, Aurora, here at this end, this safe, secure oasis of calm, where the brambles from the hedge, where the trees shift and mingle and become other trees, where the branches are dulled and pruned back into various shapes and topiaries. The old man sitting there puffing away. The children, or younger, on the edge of the building, puffing their vapes and playing their cornhole. And the smell of the holy trinity of Italian seasonings that are used in that pizza wafting out of the door. What is it Aurora is attempting? And she realizes that she is here, safe, alone.
Shit. I'm trying to figure out where the rest of them are. Is she absolutely sure she's on the human side of the hedge, or does it still feel like she might be on the wrong side of the hedge?
Looking at her skin, looking at what she is, there is no doubt in her mind that the watery seeming of her true self is visible to all. That it is no longer clothed in the dull dust of the mask. It is not dimmed by the expectations of those around her. The caramel, chocolatey highlights of her skin are just deeper shades of water. The lightly glowing essence of what she is. It's amazing how some things get taken for granted, how some things get looked over, especially in considering she knows what she looks like every time she looks into a mirror on the mortal side of the hedge. She knows what she looks like, but the mask, even to her, permeates, dulling her glow, taking some of her peace, because she is not surrounded by all that she is. She is not one with all things that she was in her keeper's realm. Each bit of water, separate and divisible from the rest, were still part of the whole. Each singular instance had its individual use, but that use and reason was applied across the realm. Everything operated in concert. When the keeper, when they were upset, everyone was upset. When they were forgetful and lost in memory, everyone was forgetful and lost in memory. Everyone still serving their purpose, but still part of the tapestry of the whole. And that's one of the many things that she misses in her freedom, in her space for herself. And it's one of the things that she misses now, standing here, safe, secure, alone.
It's going to be a very strange thought, but she pulls, checking her pockets, she pulls out her cell phone and attempts to call Hazel and see if it connects.
Okay. Would you be so kind as to roll your... Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve? Just gather one little bit of note here, just to make sure that I'm on the right path. Aha. Okay. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus computer plus word? Let's go ahead. Are you going to keep that as your final roll, or are you going to add a willpower to that?
Power, so I think I'm gonna leave that as a 2.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So as you slide your phone free, your watery fingers sliding across it at the touch screen, and you raise it to your ear as there is no network this side of the hatch, yet there is an electrical static being raised from your phone, like the network is unstable. And speaking of unstable, in full-fledged tumult, you have never been knocked off your feet permanently. You've never been kept down. You have never not given that last drop, that last ounce towards protection and security of those things that matter to you. This is no different than that. These hounds, this huntsman needs to be smashed or broken in such a way that they can no longer pursue. And as your large body cartwheels to a stop, you catching yourself by gripping the earth itself and pulling yourself to your feet. What is it that you're doing, Tyke?
Continuing his attack, I guess, at this point.
Snorting like an angry bull, you charge and leap back into the midst of them as they close on you. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus brawl -1? There's a thought exercise, the immovable object and the unstoppable force. In this particular exchange, there's, without a shadow of a doubt, Tyke is embodying both. Flying through the air with the greatest of ease, covering ground that most wouldn't think possible. The battle causing continual sparks of energy as you leap into the midst of one of the hounds and the huntsman, and as you land and rend and tear and kick and fling, the huntsman is again there in that opening of space that you are creating by destroying yet another and another and kicking to the side and breaking another. The yelps and yowls from the hounds sounding like music to your ear as the huntsman's large boot once more sends you cartwheeling away, the earth rising up, catching you as only the earth can, with painful scrape, bruise, and smashing of your bits as you force and gravity have a conversation where you are outside of your depth. Please denote one more unhalved superficial. It is clear in both of these titanic exchanges between you, the huntsman, and the hounds that his boots are in fact not made for walking. They are made for bruising, crushing, and breaking changeling. They are made for leaving his best mark forward on the skin, bones, and essence of changeling. There's not many battles that you can say that you've ever truly permanently lost, but in this battle of attrition, in this sheer tumult of violence for violence sake, the joy that the huntsman takes in leaving marks across your body, it's hard to not smile at. It's hard to not appreciate someone who really gives themselves over to their job Because he could have drawn any of the several wicked blades across his body. He could have, you're sure, pulled some weapon that you have yet to see from his being, crafted from his bones or from those of his hounds. He could have. You feel the magic in you. But in this, it seems very much as if he is taking pleasure in the beating, as if he has the rest of forever to beat sense into you and bring you to heal. And therein lies the rub, because you're sure that even as he's using his feet against you, that for each of those hounds, each of the hounds of his hunt, that a similar breaking happened either to them or to their ancestor. A removal of the will, 1 ounce, 1 bruise, 1 irrefutable return at a time. And there's something unsettling about the implacable, intractable way that he's constantly, slowly coming forward, that he draws close enough to be within range of your leap and presents you with a target of opportunity, as if he's purposely stoking your rage so that you eventually burn out, as if he's feeding on your need to hurt, to harm, to break. And with that thought sitting over you, with that understanding as to what story you are in, realizing that this is the way that liberty dies, this is the way that your freedom is truly taken from you. What is it that Tyke attempts to do?
Tyke, being too dumb to really realize any of that, is going to probably rush in and body slam that motherfucker.
Excellent. Do you have a special in grappling?
I do not, but I have a specialty in dirty fighting.
Excellent. That removes your -1, giving you your full strength plus brawl. There is no way that you should have had the opportunity. He's too good, as the saying goes. There's no way you should have, through sheer temerity, been able to do so. Yet you break through the rank of hounds, again hounding your step and closing off paths of escape. You rush through them instead of taking to the air to leap. You charge forward, heaping great handfuls of dirt in your path, sending Arcadia itself at him as you strike him, as you turn up the ground beneath your feet, dust and dirt flying here and there. And when you hit him, the sky breaks open. There's a flash of lightning presaging the thunder of your strike. But you too tumble, crash, and break the ground beneath your feet. You end over end, sending him into the earth over and over again. 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. You all slide across the ground, him meeting it ahead of you. And each hit just gets better and better. Then you feel something in him breaking as you do so. You're not sure which bone or which bones, or whether it's bones itself. Maybe it's some of his tools that he has about his person. But whatever it is, whatever snap that is, whatever snaps and breaks and chinks that you feel beneath your grip, it brings a savage, snarled grin to your face. Speaking of grins and enjoyment for enjoyment's sake, Kara, you haven't heard your keeper's voice in the last few seconds. As Hazel turns and looks back the way that you came, realizing that it is not in fact the way that you came. The way that you came was overcast and shrouded in shadow. The hedge itself close enough to touch at nearly every turn. As she looks back over your path, attempting to find where you turned or where you left the path, there isn't really a path. There's just the few patches of stone from beneath the moss-covered ground. The forest, at least 100, maybe 200 yards from where you're standing, back away from the cliff's edge. And you hear Aurora's voice beneath the lap of waves beneath you, beneath the roar of the water from the waterfall. You hear Aurora's voice. You're not sure exactly what she's saying, but you can hear her voice and not your keeper's.
Do you hear that too? Kira will say to Hazel.
Hear what?
It sounds like Aurora's voice.
Do I hear it?
That's one of the many problems about being everywhere and nowhere. Being everyone and no one. Having an identity that is mutable, it's changeable, it is adaptable. Watching everything and everyone, it gives you very little chance to watch and understand yourself, to know whom you are. And while everyone else has an idea as to who that might be, it is seldom ever encompassing what you actually are, who you actually are. And this is one of those moments. The idea of who you are isn't who you see yourself as. And somehow, in the offing of having donned your mask, a mask once more, you are less that than ever. And while you hear the small tittering of a siren song beneath the roar of the waterfall, and the aurora is responding to some confusion, you don't hear a voice. If you're being honest, the water doesn't fill you with anything remotely similar to joy. Because the water, as all water was the first mirror. It reflected back what you were, what you hoped to be, what you had an idea of was you. And a mirror reflecting a mirror, well, it is the endless sea, after all.
Alright, Hazel will shake her head, but that does give me an idea. I suppose the question would be, has Hazel ever seen Aurora in her water form, all shimmery and reflective-y?
Constantly, though dull, with the mask being typically in place when you are on the mortal side of the hedge. You're truer and closer to your actual your actual seeming here in the hedge, but is dulled by, your glamour used as shield, keeping your keeper and their hounds and huntsmen from ever truly pinpointing where you are. Typically.
All right. This is going to be hilarious if it works. All right. Hazel will pull a compact out of her pouch and open it up with the mirror reflecting inside. And she will use a glimpse of a distant mirror with the seeming benefit of can also hear and enable the other side to see and hear. And as long as she has seen herself reflected in the surface, which she may have done so with Aurora, she can see through the other side of it.
Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your charisma and word for me, please?
Presence, you mean?
No, charisma and word.
There is no charisma. Presence?
Yes. Hazel, Aurora, there's no way that what is in the offing should be in the offing, because as the static of your line connects without a network, Aurora, you can hear Kira breathing on the other side of the line. You can almost hear a sing-song elevator as music in the background, a almost dirge like ah, and then just as staticky as if you're trying to dial from the old US cellular network, you hear and see Hazel in your phone. You didn't make a video call, you didn't make a FaceTime, you didn't Skype anyone, but yet as your phone connects with that staticky otherness, there's Hazel and a bright shining something behind her.
Oh, is that where you are?
Yes. We thought that was you. Point behind her.
No, I'm at some kind of weird bar. There's an old man on the porch and some people smoking. And it's near a beach. It's kind of cool here. I guess we gotta figure out how to get you here.
We've got the ocean. It is apparently a little creepy.
Other. She looks around and then kind of looks behind Hazel into the phone, kind of trying to like maybe get a good mental picture of where they are and connect the two in her brain so that she makes a pathway through the water for them to come to her or her to go to them.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like some cartoon that you saw when you first got back to that side of the hedge, to the mortal side of the hedge, when you returned to the world. Everyone was one of the many things that helped the heroes of the film escape was that all pipes lead to the ocean. All water runs to the ocean. All water runs to the never-ending sea, the endless sea, which bordered and was part of your keeper's kingdom. All water. And part of you knows, part of you understands that touching it, that entering into the water would be effectively playing ding dong ditch. And the part that you won't allow to actually swim to the surface of your conscious mind is part of you wonders why you haven't already. Why haven't you returned to your actual home, there with your keeper in peace and tranquility, at least when they were peaceful and when they were tranquil. Even in tumult, even in full out tsunami waves of anger and rage, you all had your place. You all were one in purpose and aim. Even when one of the dry-siders attempted to defraud your keeper, when one of the other lords decided to play games against the water itself, you all were united. There wasn't any chaos of separate, divisible thought, even though each and every last one of you were your own beings. You each had a purpose. You each and everyone were united. All water is still water. All water leads to the sea. And part of you, that part of you, knows that things would be so much easier if you but stepped into the water and allowed yourself to be carried home.
Aurora is visibly biting her lip, looking back at the waves behind her, and then back to Hazel. I'm going to need you to get here quick, because if I am left alone by myself, I am going into the ocean. Yeah, ocean is talking to me. It wants me to come home. But that's not my home anymore. I need supervision.
I think it's talking to Kira too. Weird.
Oh, it most assuredly is. Kira, as you are not in the mirror in Hazel's hand, there's no way that you should be able to see Aurora's face and all of that water below. You should not see the waves forming, the curves of her lips, and speaking in a lappish tongue as she's speaking with Hazel in the mirror. The water is Aurora.
All right.
Alright, good. Of course, Kira can hear the water. Ink is partially made of water. It makes sense.
All right. that. Yes. All right. Show me around what you got over there.
And Aurora will do her best to kind of turn the phone so that Hazel can get a very clear sense of where she is and what surrounds her.
It's a beautiful, safe glen. There is an actual idyllic inn from some science fantasy novel or movie or series or book, or some idealized, quaint countryside inn. There's an old man as tall as a tree sitting on the front porch, legs stretched out in front of him, puffing away on a smoke. Not far from him, around the edge of the building, there's a group of people standing around like they would in a city, outside smoking, but instead of outside smoking to smoke a cigarette or what have you, they're puffing on a vape. And about 8-9 feet further on from them is a couple of people, two duos playing cornhole, tossing a bag back and forward. It's only as Aurora turns and you take in the idyllic scenery of where they are that you realize that, well, they're not playing with a bag, at least not a standard simple bag. They're playing with what looks like a kidney. The man as tall and long as a tree actually has bark for his skin, and what he's puffing is definitely not a cigarette. Maybe it's a bonsai tree of some sort, something small but wood, and yet it feels comfortable. There's no way that you should know that, but you know that space is comfortable. That space is safe. That space is secure. You can almost smell the holy trinity of Italian seasonings that go into and onto a pizza in the background. You know that the beer is cool and just the right level of cold. They never stop coming, and you drink your fill, and the troubles of the world might as well not exist. And speaking of might as well not exist, there's very few instances Tyke has had the opportunity of destroying something that refused to be destroyed, using every ounce of his strength as he drives the huntsman into the ground. It is with all due surprise that the huntsman, for all breaking things inside him, stands up, dusting himself off, snarling a smile in response. I guess the kid gloves are off. And as he rolls his head on its wide corded neck, you hear things popping and breaking back into place.
Assuming that he has bought everyone time to get away, Tyke will jump up, taking the cheap shot to the groin before he goes to run the way that everyone else went.
All right, so we're going to combine several things at once and do one roll. That's going to be your strength plus your brawl and roll your word with your, of course, your one glamour die rolled in.
So strength and brawl and one glamour die.
Yep, strength and brawl and word. Tyke, you've always been able to leap far. Your strength has propelled you miles at times. One of the many factors and facets of being in Arcadia that you both miss and enjoy and hate all at once, because there's nothing like leaping in New York and landing in Memphis. But according to the whim and will of the Keeper's domain you pass through, that very well could be what happened. You could leap a tall building in a single bound in Los Angeles and land in Miami, depending on if the Keeper's domain in between the two or abutting the two or three or four wanted you, allowed you in, or had a grudge against your Keeper. You could leap in the same breath, knowing that you could cover clearly half the country or more, and land in the exact same spot if all of the other Keepers whose domains you abutted didn't want to allow you entrance or access. There's never easy being here. Things are exactly what they seem and nothing of what they seem. Perception becomes reality even if that perception changes midway. And thoughts in mind for your motley, and therein lies where you get stuck. They matter to you. You were willing to die for them. The problem being is, are you willing to live for them? And if so, what does that mean their value to you is? Are they charges simply to be protected? Those memories shared? Those moments enjoyed? Do they mean anything? Do they have an ulterior motive? Are they what they seem to be in need and want of you? No one wants you, after all. But if they've lied about it so well, does that and those thoughts tumble as you do in the air? Kiera, Hazel, would you be so kind as to roll your dexterity and athletics, rolling as high as you possibly can? Are you okay? Seems as we're experiencing a small bit of technical difficulties.
Internet just crapped out on me, so I had to switch to my phone, so I missed whatever happened over the last, I'd say, probably 5 minutes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't notice you were extraordinarily silent there. So, as you're staring into the water, hearing Hazel, watching it mimic and mime Aurora actually in the offing, the sky breaks as if thunder is crashing down on top of you. Thunder is typically viewed as invisible and everyone only recognizes it as lightning. But you feel the storm, you feel the weight of the air shifting. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and athletics? Yep, dexterity and athletics.
Okay, give me 1 second to find that character sheet. As it turns out, I do in fact have a dice pool for this. 5. 1. Roll. 2.
Sounds like a plan. Magic has a weight. Even in the real world, even in the world across the hedge, actual magic, things that shouldn't happen, that couldn't happen, but do happen, has weight. You can feel it crawling over your skin. And being a being of pure, magical, fantastical weight, because that's what you became across the hedge. The glamour that abounds in your very genes, keeping you safe so long as you don't deplete that glamour, keeping you invisible to your keeper, has a weight, a vibrancy. Each of you have a spectrum. It's one of the many trivial ideas that your keeper had bounding around. And you remember the hours on end where they expounded as to what glamour was, what magic was, and talked themselves into a right mental pretzel. You feel that weight in the air around you, and it's hard not being pulled back to the moment where you were taking diction for hours, only to find out and end up right back where you belong, right at the beginning of the entirety of it, with nothing being definitive, with it all being the product of something's imagination. And then the thunder and lightning hit the ground at your feet, carrying you with it. As Hazel attempts to maneuver and pull you away, the mirror clipping closed in their hand as the cliff beneath your feet tumbles away as a red comet falls from the sky, clearing the ground beneath your feet, causing the cliff to drop into the water, causing the world to tumble and fall past your view. The question is, as the world explodes around you, do you attempt to hang on to Hazel? Does Hazel attempt to hang on to you, even knowing that the ground itself simply is obliterated as if it was struck by a mortar?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Hazel would attempt to hang on.
Yeah, Kira would also try to keep together, hang on.
It's amazing. It is simply 100% amazing. Through the crash, through the tumble, through the drowning weight of water filling your lungs, and you falling deeper and further into that formerly clear, bright water. And you can swear you hear Tyke roaring as in the jumble of the world rushing past you, as the explosion of the cliff, the bombardment of the water, the roiling of everything turning topsy-turvy and turvy-topsy, end over kettle and kettle over end. And find yourselves on the edge of a river, a shoreline, a rocky beach, if you will. The water no deeper than the length of your finger. Your clothes, they're seeming a little sopping, a little wet. Tyke, you never thought about it, but you liked animals. One of the many things that gorillas can't do for all of their strength is swim. So as you altered course, not by you altering course, but by the world literally shifting, Up was down, down was up, left was right, and right was behind you. You tumbled through the sky, striking not one but twice, something hard, something that gave way beneath you, and you could hear or know, you should be able to hear or shouldn't be able to hear, the huntsman laughing as you took to the sky, as you took teeth and bits of his chin and jaw with you as you leap past him. Your blow was, of course, to take his testes, to take his manhood, but, well, things being what they are, you'll take what you can get, especially when you were given the gift of travel, a gift of leaping over instead of having to burrow through, to shoulder through the pain of traipsing through the hedge. The sky was yours, and then the reality of what that meant. That means you are in a place that you don't belong, in a place where nothing ever belongs, making you stand out, making the keepers between you and escape, the domains you traveled through, repel you or shunt you forward. You're not sure exactly what happened, but when your thoughts shifted, so too did the world. And the cliff that rose up to meet you was made of sterner stuff than the huntsman. As Hazel and Kira tumble past you, as the water hits you and abrades your skin, as it literally tries to pull you further into the water itself, you find yourself on a rocky beach. The water no deeper than 3 inches. Kira and Hazel laying next to you, and off there in the distance, the glowing, shimmery body of Aurora as she moves closer and closer to the water.
Do I see them either fall from the sky or just appear in the water?
You see them rejected from the water, launch forward into the air 4 or 5 feet before crashing into the stony, rocky beach.
She is going to race towards them instead. Happy to see them, but concerned as hell.
That was not an enjoyable experience. Let's not do that again.
Agreed.
I got good news and bad news.
Well, hello.
Hi. But the problem is, while we are safe, because I said I wanted a safe place, we are safe enough, but we are not back across the hedge quite yet. So we need to figure out how to do that. But I don't think we're in a place where we can be hunted just yet. We have a little bit of time. I brought us some time by getting this here, but I think we need to leave completely. Especially after all the damage that was done.
Apparently just wanting to go home is not enough.
Well, let's see if we can find our way being out of imminent danger.
And therein lies the dilemma. It's all in your head. And you're all in someone else's head. You all are as you are due to the very real aspects and ability of the keepers to change the world, this world, to suit their whims, their needs, their unspoken, unresolved feelings. You all are products of what happens when magic meets thoughts, uncontrolled. This space, this place, the hedge itself is a bombardment of different fantasies swirling into one whole. Individually, each of you are a veritable powerhouse. Individually, you all are demigods given flesh. Together, you all have a power resolute, at least here, this side of the hedge. There's very little limit to what you all can do when working in accord. And home means several different things to each of you. Safety means several different things to each of you. And as Tyke sits there, his chest all but caved in from the stone boots of the huntsman, you all realize that he has been marked. The unbreakable has been broken. At least temporarily, it seems, maybe longer. The flighty whims and wills of the water have been aligned, because there's no way for you all to get from where you were to where you are without the will of the water acting as conduit. There's no way for Tyke to get from wherever he had been to where you were to here without forces out there in Obscura and Apocrypha working together, or at least not impeding one another, to get you all here. And as that slowly dawns on some, quickly dawns on others, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Everyone.
Good
Yay!
night.
We didn't die.
Yet.
Not at all.